Hello everyone, this is Source Codex, and I wanted to talk about making a raised bed and just how easy it is and how relatively inexpensive that it is as well. Now, we decided to go small and make a bed 2 feet by 6 feet. The items that we used are cedar pickets for a fence, and we got 2x2s here that we had cut out of a single long 2x2, pressure treated. We had it cut into 14 inches long, the vertical post, and we went ahead and I cut sort of a sharpened point on these posts. Let's go to the next picture. Now here's a view of it. You can see the post is here in a hole that I dug with a auger with a cordless drill, which you'll see later on in the video. And I leveled all this ground out and put a level on the sides and the front and the back, so to speak, and to make sure it's level. I also leveled the ground out as best as I could. Now this is basically how it's going to look next to the sunny side of our house. One thing that is really important as far as a raised bed is you want to put it where your plants are going to be able to get sun. And a good idea is not to make a raised bed too big to where you cannot reach across it easily. Now, you can make a wider bed and be able to go around it to the other side and reach in, but we wanted our bed to be narrower enough to where we could stand on the ends or the side and do what we needed to do. Now, my lovely wife here decided that we ought to put cardboard down. I forget her reasoning for that, but when you've got somebody helping you, you don't argue. So this cardboard was free from our local Lowe's. It was just garbage. And here it is being placed. Kind of a border to keep weeds down and also to hold moisture in your raised bed. And she had a piece of paper that she got, so she's throwing that in too. Now I just wanted to do an up close. Here is the actual end of the picket fence board that we used. We bought cedar, and cedar is very resistant to rot, so we won't have to be replacing this bed. The L braces were just an add-on that I thought would be a good idea, and I'm glad that I did that, even though the guy at Lowe's said it was overkill. I don't care. It's my bed. All right, and here's another end-on look at the bed. One thing you have to be careful of, cedar is not really strong and prone to splitting, and I had used a larger screw, these type here, I think they're 12s, and it, it split the wood. So we took it out, and I switched to, actually these are sheetrock screws. They're long and thin, and they work great. So here's a view of one end of the bed. You'll notice my lovely bamboo in the back part of the yard. Yes, I know it's an invasive species, and yes, there's problems, yada yada, but we paid good money to have a bamboo block put in so that they couldn't send any roots out into the yard after we had the yard landscaped. All right, let me go to the next image. And here it is with the cardboard in. Then my wife threw some sand in, and you'll probably say, what are these pieces of wood doing here? And here's some more. You might ask, what are they doing? Well, there is a method out of Germany called Hügelkultur, Hügelkultur, Hügelkultur. And what the Germans did is, and you can do it in raised beds, they recommended putting undecayed organic matter in the bottom of the bed. Now, then they recommended putting leaves and compost and all this other good stuff, but we decided just to go with the wood you see here. And then the next thing that we added was peat moss, which is like a compost of sorts, and it's a good additive to augment your soil. So here's the peat moss going in, and we added basically enough to cover the wood. Now the dirt here in the wheelbarrow is the dirt that came up from me leveling out this place in my yard to put the raised bed in. I had a complete wheelbarrow full. So the one thing about compost and topsoil you buy from Lowe's and other places, it's not got a lot of good living nutrients in it like you might think it would. So it's good to use actual soil from your yard that's got all the good little microorganisms and nutrients and whatever. And we then added that on top of the compost. Then my wife decided that we needed to buy some cow manure as another soil augmentation. And I said, fine, go right ahead and do it. And that's just a picture of the bag, natural, organic. And we added that on top of the peat moss. And there's what it looks like. And we didn't do a whole lot of mixing in so much. Just felt like we'd take care of that later. Then, being the thrifty shopper my wife is, she bought 3 broken bags of Miracle Grow raised bed soil. And if you can find that at your local hardware store, Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever, Ace Hardware, they will sell busted bags for half price. So we saved a good amount of money buying them half price. So here is just some of the bags. There's still got some peat moss left over. We actually bought 3 of the Miracle Grow raised bed soil. And then we're right back to the beginning of what's going on. And this is how things started. And this is how things pretty much ended up. We kept adding this Miracle Grow raised bed soil. And one thing I want to say is adding that Hügelkultur wood and whatnot down in the bottom of the bed raised the level of the floor of the bed somewhat, so we weren't adding a whole lot of this soil. A lot of people don't realize when they have a raised bed how expensive it can be adding soil to the raised bed. If you have a good sized raised bed and like 4x8 or something like that, with several levels up of board, you can spend anywhere from $150 to $250 just adding soil in. So save money, try and buy a busted bag, use soil here from your own yard, and you will do well. I'm going to stop gabbing now, and we will have the next part of the presentation. Right now you're going to be watching a video of a video, and when I start narrating in the actual video, I'm going to just basically shut up and let it roll. So after we had the peat moss in, my dear helper threw the soil in that was indigenous to the yard that was already there. And one good thing to do is to remove weeds and other plants that have come up with the soil. And here she is working in the peat moss. Well, here is our very first raised bed at this house for a garden for 2022. Pretty inexpensive overall. We used cedar fence pickets. We purchased 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We purchased 6, and we had Lowe's cut them all to size for us. We purchased 1 2x2 treated piece of wood. I forget the length, but they cut it to 14 inches, and then I trimmed them to have a point. We cleared the spot out so that it would be level, and what we cleared out pretty much filled up this wheelbarrow. You can see I've taken some soil from it and put it back in the bed. We're using the method, I can't remember, it starts with an H, it's some German method. It's Hügelkultur, John. Hügelkultur. Like, but you throw a bunch of organic materials in first. We put cardboard down, then some sand, and then a bunch of logs and general junk wood. And then we put peat moss over that, and then over the peat moss we put in some Miracle Grow raised bed soil and some cow manure, And most of the bags of the Miracle Grow, we bought busted bags. So peat moss, manure, and Miracle Grow soil for raised beds. About $34 worth of soil augmentation, so to speak. And I've just got done mixing it up. This is a 6 by 3 foot raised bed. Actually,
Nice, easy,
6 by 2.
For, you know, you can stand at the edge of the bed, reach all the way across to the other end. No need to build a giant bed. After I screwed it into the 2 by 2s, I reinforced it with these L braces. I used a bulb digger auger to dig holes for each of the 2 by 2 vertical supports that went into the ground. I think this has taken us probably construction of the bed, leveling the ground, putting in the soil, whatnot. I don't think we spend more than 2.5 hours. Not very long. We got the bed quite full, and we picked a place in the yard. It's very important to do this. Make sure you've got sunlight. Put a bed in the shade, the plants aren't going to do well. So we've got sunlight. We've got a relatively level area where we put it in once I leveled it out, which took, like I said, about a wheelbarrow's worth of soil removed. And we'll see how it does. So for a little less than, let's see, the boards, the cedar fence picket boards were like 3.5 a piece, so we got 6 of that. And then the 1 2 by 2 we had cut. And then the L brackets, and of course the screws. But you know, it's pretty cheap. And by putting in all the organic material on the bottom of this bed, we didn't have to fill it up with soil. You've got to keep that in mind, how much cubic foot of soil you plan to put in your raised bed, because it can be costly. It can run into the hundreds of dollars if you don't do the math before you build one and then go to the store to buy your soil. And it's a good idea, if you can, to get some nice, healthy, non-sterilized, just good old soil from around the yard. It's ready to go. You can pull your plants out wherever you've dug it from, so you don't get weeds in your yard, in your raised bed. And you mix this good stuff in with this basically sterile stuff that you buy from Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you get it. And the organic material, like logs and sticks and roots and whatever you come across in your yard, it's pretty easy to find. There'll be pictures at the end of this video segment.
Actually, the pictures are at the beginning.
What we put in this bed and how we put it in, and the order of adding the goods. You know, it's late February, so we've got this bed ready to go for a spring garden. We will try and wait until it's right to put in something like lettuce and broccoli and all that other good stuff. Try and get closer to the last freeze date. We're in the U.S., North Carolina, in Zone 7, and the last freeze date of the year is supposed to be around April 15th. Good old Uncle Sam tax day. So that's about saying. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave those in the comments area or ask questions, and I will let you know. I'm going to dig out the receipts for all this stuff, and I'm going to put the exact data for what we laid out for this bed, so you can get an idea of what it's going to cost you. The construction really was quite easy to do. We basically added the ends to the 2x2 stakes and did that on both ends, and then we added the sides, and that's about it. And you can carry it right in from your garage or wherever you do the construction work. And once you've dug the holes, or once you bring it out, you sort of push it down on the ground and make indentations where your stakes encounter the ground, and then you use the auger to dig down deep enough for your bed to just sit nicely flush to the ground. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Alright, I hope this little raised bed video, how-to suggestions, etc., comes in handy. And I'm looking forward to some good eating throughout the spring, the summer, and fall of 2022. So long.